In preparing for this interview, I talked to several really rabid IU fans, people who like you and like your program. And I asked them what they admired most about your work here and what bothers them. It was the discipline. They like the fact you brought discipline to this program, that you have a set of rules, these kids have to work by them. But they wonder if you're setting that same kind of example yourself, off and on the court.
Well, just look at what I do, Mike. Has there ever been any hint of scandal in our basketball program relative to cheating, relative to breaking rules? That takes a disciplined person to make sure a program is like that. Have I ever been picked up for DWI or anything like that?
I think they're talking about language sometimes. In fact, that word came up several times.
If when it comes down to the final analysis of me, and the biggest problem that people see in me is language, I'll be able to look at myself and say I did a pretty damn good job when I was here.
You are, and whether you want to be or not, the image of IU. Does it concern you that sometimes your actions on or off the court may reflect negatively on Indiana University?
I don't think there's a situation that you could ever bring up off the court where I've done anything that would reflect negatively on Indiana. I think on the floor, Jack Hartman and I used to talk about this. Jack is deceased now and coached at Kansas State and was a good friend of mine. He asked me one day, he said, how do you feel when you've just chewed out a kid in practice or in a game? Jack, I said, sometimes I really wish I wouldn't have. But that doesn't stop me from doing it the next time, because I think that kid needs that.
Can't that be done in practice, though, as opposed to in front of an arena full of people?
Yeah, but now you've got an arena full of people. And if a kid misses a free throw, he's never, ever heard a word from me. If a kid drives in and misses a dunk shot, never has he heard a word from me. But if he misses a block out, just because he doesn't pay any attention to it, and he turns and watches a shot, here comes a guy in, tips it in. You know, that hurts everybody else out there. And I don't think that I'm going to wait till I get to the locker room, because I want this kid to get his act straightened out just like that. And you've got 4 guys out here that are just busting their asses to keep that shot from being taken, and you let it go. Said, you've let these 4 guys down. And I think that's what part of team sport is all about.
But getting back to the fact that you create so much of a stir wherever you go. You walk into a room and people sometimes just tense up.
But do I create it, or
well, that's what I'm asking. Do you create that?
I don't think so.
Do you nurture it at all?
I don't think I go many places. I mean, I'm not a guy that you see around very much. I mean, I'm not a guy that you see at the 500, or I'm not a guy that you see at Pacer games, or I don't understand what the fuss is all about. I'd be very happy if I went someplace and nobody recognized me at all. I mean, that
really?
would tickle me to death. Absolutely. I mean, my wife can tell you stories about how I go to lengths to go to places and have her get something, and we eat in the car, or we go, or I go someplace where late or whatever. I mean, that's basically kind of been the way that I've done things as long as I've been here. I wasn't prepared when I came here in 1971 for the intense interest there would be in basketball here at Indiana University.
I don't think I've ever met anybody in all the years I've been doing this who engenders so much praise on the one hand and animosity on the other. Let me ask you a question I don't think you've ever been asked before. If you were an IU basketball fan and you know Bob Knight the way you know Bob Knight, would you love him or hate him?
No, I think he was a really good guy. I think he's a guy that's honest, and a guy that goes about doing the job the best way he knows how. Now, you got to keep one thing in mind.
What would bother you about him, though? What would bother you about him?
Well, I think he's probably sometimes a little bit too quick. Like I've told you, I said I don't look back on everything I've done on this basketball floor and say that it was the right thing to do at that time. But now let me tell you a little bit about animosity, Mike. You know, we've beaten a hell of a lot of people for a long time here, and that creates a lot of animosity.
Mike Ahern, Wish TV, News 8.
I have a private theory about you and the media. I think you love us. I think that we give you the attention you want, and you give us the good copy we need, and everybody comes out ahead.
No, I don't really like the media, and there are some people in the media that I really respect. Obviously, you're one of them, or I wouldn't be here today. If I'm portrayed in a certain way in the media by somebody that's never talked to me, doesn't like me for whatever reason, then Now I meet you, your wife, and your son, and I can assure you that you're going to go away with a different opinion of me, sitting down and talking to me for 2 hours, and you're going to say, well, what the hell does this guy know that wrote that story? The media, in my thinking, is basically pretty lazy. Anybody in the media expresses only his or her opinion. It's not a collective opinion that they get.
I'm wondering, though, the media has a distinct role in all of this, and maybe it's the media, and I never thought I used the word naive, but I think sometimes you might be concerning the media, because our role is not as cheerleaders for IU.
No, I
as
understand.
reporters.
I understand that. I'm just talking about being accurate and being honest, rather than letting personal opinion get into the thing and color everything that's done. No, I've never felt that anybody in the media needs support us unless they feel that we're an entity worth supporting.
Well, obviously, people in our business, as in any business, are unfair and incompetent at times. But why dwell on it? Why? I mean, you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and you'll still be the head coach at IU, and the sun will rise.
I don't dwell on it. You're the guy that brought it up. If you don't bring it up, we don't talk about it. I mean, because I would have never, in the course of this conversation, been interested in discussing the
But it bothers
media.
you, though.
I don't think it does. I don't think it does. I mean, you brought it up, so I answered what you asked. Now, if I had brought it up and said something like, Mike, why is the media this way? Then it bothers me. It kind of amuses me. It doesn't bother me. The media has been a great source of amusement to me over the years. Incompetence among those who feel they are competent has always been amusing to me. I once addressed 600 writers by simply saying this: there are a lot of you out there that have written about how difficult it would be to play for me, or how you just wouldn't want to play for me. But let me stand here and tell you, I don't look out here and see one of you son of a bitches that I'd like to have play for me.
Do you think we're making way too much of a college basketball coach? And granted, it's a college basketball coach who's been very successful in a state where basketball is king, but is there a loss of perspective here?
Hey, if I were to devise a scale of the importance of people and the roles they play in society, my job and myself would be way, way down on the list on that scale.
How difficult, though, is it for you to recruit to a program like yours? You have a disciplined program here, and that's a very undisciplined world out there at times.
Mike, I've said since I've been here that we're not for every kid. That we have probably taken, if my hands are the parameters of recruiting, then we've really narrowed it down. But within the scope of my hands now, there are a lot of kids that have played very well for us and have really wanted to come here. We've just narrowed the field somewhat.
So you're not bothered by the criticism sometimes that you're in one gear and the rest of the world is in another gear?
No. I mean, I'm in fact, in some cases, I'm glad when I look at the rest of the world that my gear is kind of stuck where it is.
Well, what's happened out there then? It almost seems as if some of these athletes feel they are above the law. Have we created that atmosphere where there's one set of rules for them and one set of rules for everybody else?
Well, not that it doesn't today, Mike, but can you remember when $50 or $100 meant a hell of a lot to you? I mean, I can too. And these guys today with $1 million contracts and so forth, the threat of being fined or losing money or not getting a commercial means absolutely nothing to them. I think the money has so affected people throughout professional sports that they just then don't really take the care and take the time to understand what some of their actions are going to lead to.
What would you do if you didn't have this job, this head coaching job?
Nothing.
As a profession?
Nothing. I mean, I would have had to do something by this point in time, but what I would do now if I quit tomorrow, I'd do absolutely nothing. I mean, I just enjoy the people that I like. I've got a little grandson that I get a big kick out of. I'm looking forward to taking him fishing, and when he becomes a pain in the neck, giving him right back to his parents.
As a way of closing, if you don't mind, I'd like to throw out just a few names and just get a quick reaction. Gene Keady.
I think Gene is a very tough-minded guy. I have a lot of respect for the way he goes after coaching. I mean, I don't think that his approach and my approach are too dissimilar.
George Patton.
Patton had a personality that I think kind of demanded recognition and kind of Patton wanted to be in the forefront of things, and I think that probably drove him to some of the things that he did. Not everything Patton did was really acceptable, and yet certainly far and away most of what he did was. I mean, the guy was
You identify with that?
well, yeah, to a certain degree.
I'll give you one more name, Bob Knight.
I would just like to be a guy remembered as one who had a job and tried to do it as well as he thought it should be done. Not as well as the committee thought it should be done, not as well as the media thought it should be done or how, but as well as he thought it should be done, knowing that as he did the job along the way, he made some mistakes. The question that I have to answer myself is that, am I turning out kids that are failures in society? And if I am, then I have to change the way I'm doing things. If I'm not, then the way I'm doing things are pretty good. And I've got an awful lot of good kids out in society right now.